All right, everybody, thank you for joining us on this episode of the JB&A Think Tank. So obviously, we're going to ask what everybody's thinking today and what's on their minds. For me, it is NDI 5. I can imagine, Jordan, that you're not far off. I mean, are you thinking NDI 5 here?
Oh, it's been all I've been thinking about.
All right. And on this episode, also with us, we've got Mr. Rick Paleo joining us from the sometimes sunny, mostly cloudy town of Seattle, Washington. I mean, how far off am I, Rick? Seattle or no?
I'm a little just outside of Seattle, Washington. Thanks for having me.
All right. We're glad to have you here. Rick, what are you thinking about today?
I'm thinking NDI 5. I think it's opening things up. I want to tell me more about it. Tell us more about it.
No, we're going to get into NDI 5. We're going to get into NDI 5. So, okay, here, let's bring up some NDI on the screen. Wrong one, right one, correct one. Actually, everybody, there's Rick. He's a little thin. He hasn't been eating since he's been on lockdown from COVID. We'll send him a burger soon.
That's shading. So nice.
It's good, right? All right, let's get Rick out of the way. Okay, so here it is. It's officially released a little over a week ago. We're kind of slow on this podcast. Don't blame us. We had some audio issues.
Blame the audio guy.
Totally. Okay, so, a couple things, big changes in NDI 5. Obviously, first one right now is the new dashboard, right? Or, I'm calling it the dashboard. Other people are calling it the launch pad. It's totally smacked my mic there. That was awesome. The launch pad is, I was just mentioning to Rick, I love this because I don't have to go hunting through the, what did they name that tool? Was it screen capture? Was it studio monitor? It's just easy. Yeah. Have the bridge up in the background or the tools up in the background all the time. And it's really easy to kind of pick and launch directly from here. I like this a lot. So this is, I think, the biggest, the single most simple improvement in the NDI platform, because now we can launch our apps right from here. Okay, so new ones that are in, webcam is old, screen capture is old. Now, one thing that people may not know is the old screen capture HX is hidden underneath the gear. So to get to that one, if you're still doing, the HX screen capture, it's still available. There it is. Test patterns is a lot of fun. That one's new. Access Manager has got some new tools, some new things. Bridge is new. We're going to get into Bridge at a later date. This one is deeper than today can handle. Yeah, that's awesome. Remote, the same. We'll get into it later, probably when we do Bridge. After Effects, this isn't necessarily new, but it's just got a nice way to launch the plugin, or at least, to get it installed. Same with Premiere. And notice I conveniently glossed over Audio Direct. So Audio Direct is kind of where I want to talk, kind of focus on today. So with Audio Direct, we actually get VST plugins, right? Audio native plugins that allow you to grab any NDI audio, any NDI source that has audio, right? And bring that in. So one of the things I appreciate on this one is it doesn't have to be an audio source only. It can be a camera that has embedded audio, a video that has embedded audio, any audio source connected to an NDI.
Desktop, same thing.
Desktop, yep. Screen captures, anything are accessible to Digital Audio Workstation. So Jordan, this is your space, this is your sweet spot. Talk to me a little bit about what that, what a Digital Audio Workstation means.
Totally. And I forgot to say, I'm Jordan Friday, digital content producer at JB&A. We just found this guy on the street. He seems to be really excited about NDI 5. So
fire the host today. What is his problem?
Not at all.
Man.
No. So yeah, basically a Digital Audio Workstation is, in a lot of ways, it's similar to how a TriCaster works, or something like Wirecast, where you're bringing a bunch of different points of ingest in, and then you are able to, you're able to scrub it and clean it and manipulate it, do whatever you want. Then you're able to route it out into multiple different ways. And, Digital Audio Workstations have been around for a while. One of the first being with DigiDesign, I think was the first when they went into doing Pro Tools, and Pro Tools is everywhere. What's interesting is that this Audio Direct is actually not compatible with Pro Tools at the moment because it's only for AAX plugins. There are some workarounds that have not been tested that I'd love to test on that, but specifically any VST enabled host, Digital Audio Workstation or DAW, will work just fine with this. So we actually have one.
Yeah.
Ready to roll.
Should we bring it up? All right, we're gonna switch over. We want to go to this one. Okay, so yeah, if you're following along, you're going to take the quiz later. There will be some questions and answers on this one. This is good, but ideally, okay. So here's the strength of this one for me personally. It's like the ability, like if we think about a lot of big houses of worship, a lot of places that are mixing on all digital consoles now. This means we no longer have to deal with Dante plugins, right? So the requirement of having a Dante plugin to get Dante into that DAW isn't necessary anymore, which means no installing Dante plugins on your TriCaster to get audio the reverse way, because the VST plugins give it bi-directional capability. So here, grab the mouse for a second. Maybe you can walk people through kind of what the experience looks like.
Yeah, so this is Reaper, and this is one of like many sort of inexpensive / free DAWs. Reaper has a 60-day free trial that is fully featured. That's what we're using right now. But there are so many other free DAWs that work. But this one in particular is great because I like the way that it shows audio, but specifically its routing capabilities and the way that it does plugins is really great. So right now you'll see that we're peaking our meters right now.
Pop. Pop. Just want to make sure everybody saw that. That
exactly.
was real-time audio right there.
This is real-time audio because if I go to effects here, this is going to open up this is a effects chain of all the different things you could use, compressors, EQs, and stuff.
And that is the NDI plugin.
That's
right
the NDI plugin.
Yeah, right
exactly.
Cool.
So that is what that looks like. So if you do click on Audio Direct in the Launchpad, I don't think.
Yeah, I probably should have done that, right? Yeah, the Launchpad literally does nothing when you click the button. Yeah. Actually, it brings up a how-to, like here's what the thing does. It gives you a little data, but effectively the plugin gets installed when you install NDI Tools version 5. It automatically gets added to your system.
And this one I think it actually installs it in program file. I think it's in common files. It's not actually like in VST plugins or the Steinberg then VST plugins folder. So if you don't find it, it's because it's in common files. So you can easily copy paste it's just a single DLL or 2 DLL files, one for input, one for output. They're 2 different plugins. You can just copy paste those, put those into the VST folder of choice. You can even do it on a thumb drive and run it off the thumb drive if you wanted to. But basically right now what we have is we've got TC1 chosen. We're using a TriCaster TC1 here. And that's what our NDI source is, because all of our audio from our microphones in the podcast studio are going to a mixer, which are then being fed live into the TriCaster. But this computer is actually downstairs in my workstation, which is on the same network. But it's nowhere close to these microphones. But we're still able to pull in the TriCaster audio directly.
Yeah, and go ahead and hit that pull down again on the NDI source. And this goes to my earlier comment: is any available NDI source is accessible to this plugin, right? So a camera, a remote NDI feed coming from somewhere else, right, where you're bringing that over backhaul. Effectively, anything that's NDI is now accessible to this plugin.
Exactly.
It not only works if it has audio, obviously, but
and the amount of the types of channels that you can do with this is amazing. So if you have a DAW that can display multiple channels like 5.1, 7.1, like there's some DAWs that are made to have a single channel of 5.1 or 7.1 surround. This will allow you to configure them. Now, most people will probably only ever want to do mono channels 1 through 16 or stereo. But I'm curious, does NDI support multi-channel audio?
Yes.
Oh, then that's a whole nother kettle of fish.
Well, no, and I can think about this from a like on the quad perspective. If you had a remote feed coming from another facility, and let's say it was a podcast studio, and you were backhauling a program feed with 4 independent mics, you could effectively bring those 4 mics into your DAW and mix those.
Would that potentially be over one NDI feed?
Over one NDI feed.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know, right? So there's a lot of think about it. About it. This is the think tank.
Yeah.
Live.
JB&A think tank. Yes.
Not mention the ability for return feeds to some of these remote
destinations. That's the next part. Yeah.
Which is incredibly key in any live production.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is. So I have an NDI audio output, and I think we can show this by cutting back to the TriCaster.
Yeah,
if we
absolutely.
Did it. So if I just hit play, no one will hear anything just for simplicity.
We're gonna see the meters bounce.
But yeah, so the meter's bouncing on this, and then if we go back here, correct?
So go to the top, go to the 3. Yeah, pick up the TC1.
And multi-view, right?
Yep. All right, Josh, we're taking control.
So yeah, within here, you can see that in input 3, that is the output out of Reaper.
Yep.
And we did 1, but you could do, I think, probably up to 16 at a time.
You could pump. Yeah, the plugin was symmetrical. You get the same number of inputs on the outputs.
Yeah.
Depending on how you plumb them.
So you're now no longer needing to, and you can take back control, I think.
Yeah,
but like you're no longer needing to stay hardware with audio. You can branch out into software for free. That's the other thing. It's like it's
okay.
It's for
yeah.
free.
So I mean, here's a pop quiz for the people following at home. Is NDI Tools is free. You get all these amazing plugins now. Even if you're not necessarily a TriCaster environment for OBS, if you're anything else and you want better audio control, right, better mixing capabilities, this VST plugin, which again is for free from NewTek, load it up and you can start mixing amazing things right out of the gate and completely change the scope of your production. And even us, we're looking at, okay, do we even need a soundboard anymore?
Yeah.
A good IP interface or USB interface, like a Scarlett 1820 or something like that, gives us complete control. We can create more mixed minuses than our soundboard can configure at that point. So
and then be able to have audio instantaneously offloaded to someone else. Yeah. That you don't have to stay in the TriCaster to be able to run audio. Or if you want to have somebody that is in a totally different room, or potentially when I don't want to spoil it, but when Bridge is fully available, you don't have to be anywhere on-prem at all to be able to input and then output back audio. Now you have some sync things that you'd have to figure out, in the way of video, video audio sync that you'd have to like I said, figure out, but that's possible too, which is really cool.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I think, in the end, this what kind of wrapping this sort of segment up is NDI Tools with NDI 5. The VST plugin to me is probably one of the stronger things, and probably the one that most people are probably overlooking right now, because remote and bridge seem more sexy and more exciting, right? But traditionally, video people tend to dwell less in the audio world. Audio people tend to dwell less in the video world, right? And so we never think where these may cross. This really blends the two together and create some interesting experiences, because mixing audio externally via the VST plugin is just pretty cool. All right, we're going to break away for a moment. So Ricky, what do you think? What? So you mentioned right away, a remote workflow of being able to push audio to a far side, or and I said bring audio in from the far side. What other kind of workflows are you kind of thinking sort of right out of the gate pops into your heads that can be achieved with this?
Well, right out of the gate, obviously the multiple mixes that you can send out. Well, there are lots of capabilities within the TriCaster, and you do have the 4 aux outputs. Now, some of the workflows is, well, I want to expand upon that. I want multiple languages coming out of my production, and I don't want to eat up all of my aux buses. So that's number one, is just being able to better manage your video, well, can you tell where my focus normally is? Better manage your audio. All of this, in my humble opinion, I think all of this was available with Dante, except that added like another level to the complexity of it, because you had your Dante network, and a lot of Dante networks were based on a basic 169 self-discovery IP address. Here, everything is more following along the lines of how NDI is now structured in being able to auto discover.
Well, and I want to take that one for a second. Is the VST plugin is for free? And does anybody know what the price is on the Dante plugin?
Oh Lord!
Thank you. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's
as expensive as you want to make it.
Yeah. This further goes back to sort of Dr. Cross's. Those of you who don't know Dr. Cross, who's sort of the brainchild or behind NDI in general. Him and NewTek School have always democratizing video tools, right? Getting them into the hands of the masses so the masses can use them, and in that we see a greater let's just say growth and experience, because more people are banging away, but more people are coming up with new ideas. The community at large is larger, right? Because sort of the community is saying, well, we get these tools for free, let's see what we can come up with, right?
Yeah.
And so in my mind, it's like, as good as Dante is, it still costs money, and that prohibits some people from being able to engage and come up with new ideas, new concepts.
And it's also
well. Let's expand.
yeah.
I'm going to jump in because
Do
I
it.
want to expand upon that. There are facilities that are like they already have a completely built-in, tricked out Dante solution, and now we're bringing in a live production video solution in there, and we want to take that feed out. So previously, we had to, like, rather than try to rework the entire system to kind of bring in the TriCaster with its static IP addresses or DHCP, all of that now, or take an analog source out of whatever your Dante solution is. Now you could just say, great, let me install in my new NDI 5.0 plugin and take an NDI feed out of there, or multiple NDI feeds out of that Dante enabled workstation.
So you're saying, and I was going to ask is, can Dante and NDI coexist, right? Can these two live in the same network? I mean, even though Dante is working on, or has announced and started shipping their own video-based codec, it's, it doesn't seem at this point that it's really focused on production, but it's more focused on distribution, right? So really, if we're just looking at the audio side of it, can Dante audio and NDI audio exist on the same network? Right.
Well, before that's answered, I want to ask Jordan point blank: how many plugins can I put into an audio workstation?
Oh, I mean, it's only limited by the power of your CPU. Mm-hmm. I mean, and the amount of RAM that you have, but you can go crazy with the amount. I mean, other than like with the VST plugin for NDI, that's sort of, I think that's limited to a certain extent. We haven't done enough stress testing to be able to see, can you go past that and somehow, but like past the 16 channels, but
we will find a way to
I'm sure
we will find a way to break it.
Yeah, but I think the possibilities are there, where it's like in most cases we are going to get a feed or two feeds or three feeds out of a large mixing board handling whatever the situation is, whether it's a house of worship, whether it is a corporate studio, whether it is, whatever the mix solution is. We're only going to need a handful of audio sources out to send out to or the output of the TriCaster.
And a moment ago I brought up the TriCaster up on the screen here in the studio, and I was going to make a point of, when we talked about being able to separate this audio and have a DAW just for audio that's got a very similar feel and look to a TriCaster, so to speak, or a workflow. One of the reasons I did that is because earlier, if you notice, as I was coming in to show, hey, look, we've got this VST plugin feeding back into the TriCaster. Yeah. Josh, our TD, was in there making camera changes, and we were both fighting for control, right? And so it's like, oh, who's in charge right now? And so that was, I think this is something we've talked about internally, which is, hey, in the middle of it, the TD doesn't necessarily have time to take his hands off the steering wheel to, make a minor adjustment. And that, yes, there are other interfaces to something like a TriCaster, their web UI, but you may not get the level of granular control, and you still have limitations in terms of number of auxiliaries if we're going to have, multiple mix minuses going out or just different mixes floating. Whereas with a DAW, you're sort of unlimited, right?
Yeah.
And so,
and just to be able to say that it's like, if there's something, because I mean, of course, TriCaster is awesome. It's like there's so much that it can do. But in the way of audio, it's like what it has, like, is, it in the way of audio processing, like stock, is the basics, know. But once you open that up into a DAW, it's, I mean, the sky is the limit for the amount of things that you can have fine control over, that your director or your whoever is switching has nothing to do with. It's all can be pushed off to somebody else. And then I know I probably shouldn't keep talking about Bridge, but it's just like,
I swear we have to do a show on Bridge.
We really do, but it's like being able to say, to somebody effectively, potentially be able to say to somebody, hey, we have a simple mix, but you're going to do the mix somewhere else in the world potentially, and then send it back is crazy. Like, I mean that's
where the wheels are going to fall off the bus in terms of like distributed processing, right? Because we're now talking about like distributed production and production happening from anywhere, and think of esports with players all over the country meeting in the cloud, we've got sort of production. It's kind of the grab you effect. Ooh, I say grab you. We should talk about that another time.
There you go.
But but that concept is interesting, right? It's kind of telling, when you look at a TriCaster, there are no microphone inputs on a TriCaster. We get into this pretty often with clients, right? It's like, where do I plug my mic in? You don't. You plug your mic into a soundboard, right? And that soundboard feeds the TriCaster. And even though it has so many audio inputs, not all of those are, many of those are dedicated NDI inputs or other sources. The physical, traditional analog inputs are designed to be line level, right? So that sort of, to me, is really just opens up the story to say you would always put in a soundboard anyway. You would always have an external mixer with somebody with their hands on the wheel, right? So doing that now in a DAW is awesome because the effects, the timing, the latency, the things you can do with it that you might not be able to get in your standard soundboard. A DAW is far cheaper in the end, and it doesn't take a massive computer. As we toyed with some i3s, some i5s, some i7s. I mean, just very generalized computers, and the DAW runs just fine.
Oh, of course. Yeah, and there are ways to do some hybrid workflows with digital boards that already have an audio interface built into them that you could be, bringing in audio that physical audio through a mixer that is made to also be an interface. Do that, bring it into Reaper, then be able to output a single or multiple VST outputs out of that DAW, or say, like you said, use a Scarlett 1820. It's like, it's not a mixer, but now it is, which is crazy.
It's not a mixer, but now it is.
Yeah.
No, it's very, very easy. I mean, and I think this is, again, something that doesn't take a mastermind to pull together.
No.
This is going to really make it easy for anybody to say, I want greater control over audio, right? And build an interface. Just the ability to create different mixes alone is very powerful.
Oh yeah,
I like that. So NDI Audio Direct. I mean, this is any other workflows? I'm just trying to think out of the gate. We talked about remote workflows, alternative audio mixing workflows. I mean, you hit the mix from anywhere type of concept once we enable Bridge. I mean, Rick, anything else you can think of that we've missed in terms of possible workflows with this?
Ooh. Right now, I think we've covered some of in my opinion, the top of the list. I mean, just the fact that we now have it, I think that it's just going to open the doors to new ideas, new ones that we haven't thought of before. Just in the same way that NDI has made us think about working differently. So,
I think also just solving little problems. There are lots of times where it's like, oh, we're not able to get audio in this one specific situation. It's like, but this has the potential to, for very little money, solve lots of little problems that it's like, okay, well, we don't have, a hardware encoder for this or whatever, it's like, well, but we do have that audio in our DAW already. Can we throw one of the many other tools on here, like Studio Monitor or something, to be able to pull it up somewhere else?
Well, it's funny you say that, because then I'm looking up here and the Premiere Pro plugin is staring at me, and I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of missed that, right? Because ideally, if we jump back to the Reaper, it's like, okay, if we look at the input one, huh?
What are you looking for?
The input, India input. There we go. If we go back to our sources, it's like, okay, well, if I'm looking at bringing a source into TriCaster, we already know the Premiere Pro plugin is there, but you could route the audio through a DAW and remix it or add effects to it in real time that maybe Premiere would take time to render on, and then push that output right back into the TriCaster. Yeah. Right. And sort of create a secondary step for it. So.
And stuff like, adding sound effects and post sort of stuff, being able to push that out, trigger things in real time, and also for a lot of things for post too, is being able to live try different scores or different mixes, different things like that. There's a lot of stuff that it's like, normally you'd have to completely re-export something versus now, since you're separating the audio out, but it's an NDI feed, there are ways to do it where you could say, it's like, let's try this different mix on this. Let's try this different mix on this, but in real time.
Brilliant. I mean, that's just it's a different one altogether. What was that?
You're on my computer, and that's the Cinedeck.
And that's the Cinedeck that we're looking at right now. Right on. That's hilarious. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, we give you the Cinedeck LX. So this is fun, actually, that we mentioned it.
We did not actually mean to do this,
but it's thoroughly pivoted quite well. So So
did, actually.
just as a great aside, when we start talking about all the things NDI right now, since we're on the subject, let's pivot off of that and let's talk about the Cinedeck LX. I mean, we've been thinking about it. We're producing a piece on it right now. That's going to publish in the next week or two. So the Cinedeck, if everybody doesn't know, is an appliance that with SDI inputs that was designed to record to multiple codecs, right, and get pulled down to your ProRes's, your whatever flavor of editorial codec you want. And it's got a pretty convoluted interface here. It's very VTR-esque because that's sort of what it was born into. However, is it that one? It's the other one. Huh?
Yes.
Oh, wait, do we not have?
No, it's Cinedeck client over there.
Oh, there it is.
But it's not set up right now.
It's not?
No.
No. Oh.
Unfortunately.
KVM's not turned on right now.
Oh, KVM's not turned on that one.
Yeah. Okay. So on that one, KVM's not turned on. But there is a brand new interface that is getting released right now. There is it gives a very simplified UI and allows you to play with it from just about anywhere.
Looks really nice.
It's very, very cool. So, but this is so what we're actually seeing right here though isn't a traditional Cinedeck. This is the Cinedeck LX, and the LX has no SDI inputs. It is completely NDI. So all of the sources, your 4 sources coming into it, or you can get it in an 8-channel version, are NDI sources coming into the machine that then we can record to whatever flavors of video we want. And go down that path. Oh, did I hit the record button?
You did. I'm worried.
Let's
my hard drive doesn't have that much.
Yeah, we got to fix that.
Yeah.
So it's if only there was shared storage, but that's another story altogether. Stay tuned on the next episode of the Think Tank. This is good times. This is good times. So LX completely NDI. We've got a piece we're going to be pushing out in the channel here in the coming weeks to kind of talk about the LX. But it's all about being able to take NDI off the network and format it to whatever format you want, be it ProRes, be it DNX HD, be it MXF. And, that's from an editorial standpoint, that is probably a more fluid workflow than just working in an NDI codec, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you spend more time editing it than I do. Getting a nice chunky ProRes or an MXF that you can edit in real time while capturing thought process. So it's a great appliance. I'm really excited by it. The codec choices are amazing. You also get primary and secondary, so we get a proxy file.
And it will stream.
And then it also recreates NDI on anything it's capturing and republishes that. So it's a beast of a workhorse. What I'm most excited about is SRT is coming into this box here in the coming weeks. We'll have an SRT capability where no longer are you relegated to just on-prem NDI signals, but Rick up in Seattle can feed me an SRT and I can record him directly to editorial-based codec.
It's not out yet?
It has not been released.
I put it in the video. Is that okay?
I think by the time the video releases,
put it in the video.
Yeah, and then the crazier one is Cloud, right? Cloud on this is coming where this interface now goes up into an Amazon Azure server. And, this sort of brings us right back around to, wait for it.
Oh my gosh.
Where'd it go?
We are in like NDI-ception right now.
Yeah,
with the amount of
I'm like
studio monitors we have running.
Spun 3 times from Sunday, right? What interface am I in? Brings us right back to Bridge, right?
Yep.
Bridge and remote. So I think I don't want to attack Bridge and remote right now. This needs a show to itself. So with that, I say,
and we hit a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff here.
Our inaugural podcast.
First time out on the deck, and I only messed up 17 times. Rick, any final thoughts on Audio Direct?
Download it. It's free. Download it and take it out on the track and step on the gas. And let's see. I'm really curious to see what users out in the field are going to do with it.
Absolutely.
And
it's a VST3 plugin as well. There's no VST2 version, to my knowledge, that is out. So VST3 hosts only.
I wonder why mine didn't work. I was running 1.5.
Oh, but I don't even think that's a thing.
See, now we know why it doesn't work.
Oh my gosh. Awesome.
Jordan, final thoughts on Audio Direct?
I am super excited, especially like to me for houses of worship. It's a big one, like, but any music centric production, like so many people are having to do, especially with COVID not being finished up, it's so many people are having to do live streams and stuff. So to tell them, it's like, hey, you can get your audio from your DAW, directly from your DAW, to whatever your capture device is, to another computer, to an entirely, potentially at some point, different state or country is just insane, without any additional gear. Just download it. So download it. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess all of us should echo that is download NDI Tools 5. You will not. Well, one, it won't cost you as much as anything else out there, but you won't be mad at yourself for downloading this.
No. Well worth it.
Yeah, and I think, for me, Audio Direct is a tip of the hat to Cross and the team. I think audio to me is sort of felt in the NDI world is like the forgotten stepchild a little bit here, like the third child syndrome, the middle child of like, yeah, it's there, it's cool, we give you tools for it, but this just kind of that's like, okay, audio world, we see you, we see you, and we give you Audio Direct,
right? And it's to put it in a type, like a type of like delivery package, like a VST. It just is the icing on the cake. They could have done some other weird sort of thing, but this was, it's VST plugins are everywhere. It's what everybody knows in the audio world. And
to kind of steal thunder from both of you guys, they could have charged for it, people.
Oh yeah,
and they didn't. Right?
Don't give them any ideas.
No, they wouldn't. Just don't watch. That's all good. All right. We're gonna call this episode over. Obviously, as the think tank proceeds forward, we're going to attack more things. I think next we got to talk about bridge and remote, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Rick, bridge, remote.
Absolutely. It's as soon as it's made available, I want to break it. Let's see what we can do to.
Admit it. You want to talk about Access Manager? You love your Access Manager. Come on.
Look, one thing.
Okay.
Select mix. That's the one thing I want to say. Select your neck.
All right, and with that, we select this Nick to close it out. Thank you.
I was waiting for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you all.
Take care.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Jordan.